Hi, this is Malcolm Bruce, and I'm on We Go to 11.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Well, hey, thank you for your time. I know you have Heavenly Cream coming out here next month. Well, it's November next month. So, I mean, it's just around the corner, really. How did this come together? Because it's pretty cool. I mean, I think for those people that don't know, your dad, Jack, part of the iconic trio Cream, and you put together a collection of the songs and the music of the band, but you put a little bit of a spin to it. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it's basically an acoustic tribute to the band. It was really instigated by Pete Brown, who sadly left us earlier this year. Pete was my dad's chief collaborator, songwriting partner as lyricist, and he wrote lyrics for many of the famous Cream songs like White Room, Sunshine of Your Love, I Feel Free, etc. And so Pete was talking to the label Quarto Records about another project, and this idea came up in discussions to make as you say, like a little slant on it, an acoustic version of a Cream tribute record, but also shoot a documentary documenting the process of making the record. So at that point, Pete came to me and asked me if I wanted to be involved. I've worked with Pete a lot over the years in different ways. So he came to me and I immediately agreed. He went to Rob Cass, who is the producer on the record, and Mark Waters, who shot the documentary, directed and edited the documentary. So yeah, we had this kind of core group of us, and then we started reaching out to people. One of the earliest people we got on board was Bernie Marsden, Snake, who also left us earlier this year. And through Bernie, we kind of got Joe Bonamassa because they were friends, and so it kind of just fanned out. We just started contacting people and seeing who might want to be involved, and we got a few people. So I think we did all right.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty cool. Like you said, there are some folks that were part of this recording, in and out of it, or production and or behind the scenes, and some of them aren't around anymore. I think one of them, key person that I want to point out, Ginger Baker. So this makes me think that this has been a long time in the works, right? A long time in the making.
Yes, I think Pete was talking to Mike Carden at Quarto Valley in 2017, and then we went into the studio in 2018. We recorded predominantly at Abbey Road Studios in London. And so, yes, Ginger came in on 2 separate days to record in 2018. And so by the end of making the record and mixing it and all of that stuff, and then the documentary and the editing of the documentary, I think we were sort of slated for release in 2020, and then the pandemic hit and everyone's lives changed. So yes, it's been a 5-year process for this to kind of finally be released. November 3rd it's coming out. So yes, and so Ginger passed away end of 2019, I think.
Right.
Crazy.
Well, and how frustrating was this for you? Because again, the pandemic, like you said, it just kind of put a wrinkle on everybody's lives. It kind of turned some lives upside down. And in the process of this, this started back in 17, you said, and then by 19, and then 20, and then 21, and it's like, hey, we have this record, and you're just having to sit on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just one project of many that I've been involved with over this period of time. But I think everything that probably for everybody, I can't imagine there's any industry that wasn't impacted by what we all collectively went through. And certainly the creative arts, live performance. I mean, it's never come back to what it was before. We're all trying to figure out, maybe we'll just have artificial intelligence and just send out holograms instead. Hey, we could do like the Ginger Baker tour with a Ginger Baker hologram. Let's do it.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, I'm sure there's people that'd be willing to shell out some money to make that happen,
yeah,
but yeah.
I mean, there's some pretty effective, the ABBA show that's
Hmm.
doing the rounds at the moment. It's just unbelievably incredible what they've achieved with that kind of
Right.
thing, technology. But yes, I think for us lowly musician types, generally speaking,
Hmm.
everything changed during this period. But we, I think we all still want to be creative, and we're all finding our way forward. And there's still a lot to be done, And I think we're really proud of this project, and it has
Hmm.
become has sort of taken on more meaning now that some of the guys.
Right.
Pete Brown as the
Right.
center of this project has passed away, and two or three. Pee Wee Ellis passed away,
Right.
who's on the record as well. So the rest of us have just got to eat really good, like lots of green
Right.
vegetables, live forever, right?
No
That's
kidding.
the
Yeah. Yeah. Let's hope for that. But, just so we don't miss out on this piece, because I know there's the record and then there's the documentary, two separate items, right? Two separate
yeah.
they're going to be standalone pieces is what I'm getting to.
Yes, the documentary I believe is already available for streaming. You can do a search online for that.
Hmm.
And the record itself, the
Right.
album is coming out November 3rd as a
Hmm.
download of a CD, and then I think
Hmm.
2 or 3 weeks later it comes out as a double vinyl package.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so but all of it's available for pre-order as we speak.
Mm.
I expect everybody listening to run to their computers. Oh no, you're
Yeah.
already on computers.
Yeah, right.
To
But
put this
we'll
on
put
pause and buy this. No.
yeah, we'll post the links to all that stuff because
Yeah.
I know I got a chance to listen to the record a bit ago, and wow, again, I like the wrinkle that you added to the music because it's easy to just kind of get a bunch of guys together and do an electric record. I think doing it acoustic, far removed from that. If you recall, that era back in the '90s where everybody was doing an unplugged record. I think even Clapton did an unplugged record. That now,
Yeah.
a few years removed from that, this is now fresh again.
Yeah, and also it's not. I mean, it is unplugged. The
Yeah.
vast majority of it is acoustic instruments, but
Hmm.
we didn't take the approach of making an acoustic record.
Right.
So
Right.
okay, let's do everything softly
Yeah.
and sensitively, like an acoustic record should sound.
Right.
It wasn't that approach. It's just okay.
Right.
We're not going to have wailing guitars, but we're still going to have the attitude to the
Hmm.
songs. We're going to have the dynamics
Yeah,
really.
right. I think the word I use is it has a lot of punch to it, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, I mean,
does have that punch.
Rob, the producer's great. He's a really great, wonderful guy, and so he mixed. He's a great mix engineer. So that really helps. To have some good people that are
Hmm.
bringing the sonics to the best that they can be. And
Right.
obviously, you record in a studio like Abbey Road, you would
Mhm.
expect to get a pretty good result sonically from that point of view. And also, every time I've worked in Abbey Road, it's made me want to do the best I can do. So I think it is that kind of environment. You're going in, oh my, the hallowed halls of Abbey Road
Right.
Studios, and okay, I'm going to practice my scales, and I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to stand on my head and do yoga for 12 hours and go in and be amazing. That
Right.
sort of. So, and I
Yeah.
think everybody, like, it just makes us all like want to do well. And also, I guess everybody that was involved understood and is part of the story, whether directly or indirectly. We have Paul Rogers singing,
Hmm.
and
Right.
Paul, obviously, a legendary guy within himself, but still part of that whole lineage of
Hmm.
music, that it's not just the UK, the British scene, it's the American thing. It all kind of cross fertilizes, and um everyone, Bobby Rush, who's amazing. So we were lucky. We got people that really understand the weight and importance of this music and the tradition and respecting it, but
Yeah.
also keeping it alive and having fun with it. So
It's funny because I think one of the things that I think of when I listen to this record is it's sophisticated, right? Like it
yeah.
has this kind of top shelf type deal to it. I mean, not only the songs, but I think the musicianship. I think the only guy that's kind of a little bit, um, doesn't fit the sophisticated tag is Ginger Baker, but he was part of the band. So, I mean,
Well, I mean, yes, but I mean, I think he's in a way the most important musician on this record, even though, like, as a person, he's
Mhm.
he's he's noted for his attitude, but
Right.
actually, but that isn't really who he was. Like, I saw two sides to Ginger. Most of
Mm,
the time, he would be quite rude and to
right.
people, and sort of have this wall up and all of that. But actually, that wasn't really him. I think that was a sort of protective mechanism in
Mm,
social situations for whatever reason. He didn't kind of
right.
like people to be sycophantic around him. He just wanted to be himself and not really be bothered by all that nonsense. But as a musician, he's incredible. And I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
I listen to his drumming, and it's just there's so much I could say about it.
Hmm.
The musicality, the way he plays with the time, the
Hmm.
freedom within the phrasing. It's just nobody can play like that, and when he came in, we did one or two takes on each song,
Oh,
and that was,
wow.
it wasn't like we were spending hours and hours getting something right.
Hmm.
That wasn't the approach we took. We took an approach of getting we were essentially all playing together and then maybe fixing a few things here and there and doing a few overdubs, but essentially we were playing as a band in the studio. So that was the approach we took. Let's get the feeling and the interaction of the musicians and capture.
Hmm.
That's the basic premise that we have on this record. Of course, we fixed all my bass parts because no way I'm going to get that. No, I'm kidding, but we did have to
Right.
fix a few things. But that's just the nature of modern recording technique. But as much as possible, we just let it be what it is.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, with Ginger, again, having seen that documentary, I think it opens up with him beating the piss out of a guy with his cane, right? I mean, that was
Well,
like,
I
wow,
I
that's
met
wild.
I met what's his name who made that documentary, but
Right.
but it's his karma because basically, I mean, I thought it was amazing what he did, and it's really clever and really funny. But
Hmm.
he called up Ginger and
Right.
pretended to be a writer for Rolling Stone or whatever, but he wasn't. He just kind
Right.
of made up this story and convinced Ginger that he was going to do like a thing. So I mean, it's just it's
Yeah.
calm.
It
But
it was it
but
was good.
they became great friends. Really
Right.
down
Right.
to it.
I mean, again, it showed a kind of probably a different side at times. He was really kind of a grumpy guy that wanted to be left by alone, but he was likable, right? So I mean, it
Oh,
was awesome.
very intelligent guy and very creative, and but like all of us, self-sabotage ourselves, or
Hmm.
we go through phases. We have to grow up. We have to learn about ourselves. We learn by our mistakes, all of those things. And Ginger did not live a perfect life, but he's left us with a great legacy in terms of creativity.
Right.
But it's that thing. It's the old adage, never meet your heroes, and I think that rings
Hmm.
true with Ginger.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah, no, but yeah, that's awesome. I, out of curiosity, I mean, because again, your dad had this huge impact on rock and roll, classic rock, and bass playing too. At what point in time, growing up, did you realize that impact that your dad had on rock music?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I think as far as I can think back in terms of awareness, I knew that he was making music and
Hmm.
that I was going to see him perform at shows where other people were going to see him, and might have been in the audience and watching him on the stage,
Hmm.
and then as I was getting older, I performed with him. But yeah, from as far back as I can remember, I knew
Okay.
that's what he was about. And he had lots of musicians would come to our house and collaborate with him and rehearse and be his friends were musicians predominantly.
Hmm.
So and musical instruments were in our house, and I was playing the piano from the age of about 5
Oh,
onwards, and
wow.
then I picked up the bass at the 8 or 9, and then the guitar at 9 or 10, something like that, and then the violin after that, which I don't claim to still play. I did play it for about 7 years. And the recorder. So, I'm a
Hmm.
multi-instrumentalist because I
Right,
play
right.
the recorder. No,
So, out of curiosity, I mean, what kind of tips did your dad give you as far as performing, playing bass? Because I'm sure, he's a wealth of information as far as that goes, that particular instrument.
yeah, I'm not sure. He did show me a few things going along on different instruments, but it wasn't really that. It was more just being around my dad and collaborating with him and recording with him and improvising with him and things like that. And so just finding my own way within it. And I think it was just the biggest lesson that my dad taught me without actually sitting down and teaching me was just the openness, the musical openness, and humility within that. My dad was he's an incredible musician and composer and all of those things, but he had a great respect for other musicians and especially for allowing them to find their own way. And I think that's the greatest mark of respect, to not control everything. And it's from an extra musical point of view. We live in times where everyone's trying to tell each other what to think and what to do and how to
Right.
be. And actually, music as an analog to life is a great teacher just in that regard. Like, it's take your time, find out how do you want to do something, and I think that that's a huge lesson. And if you have that space and time to discover who you are within it, and again, it's conformity. We're all music's supposed to sound like this.
Hmm.
And, actually, no, there's just infinite and vastly different ways of self-expression. And but I mean, and as far as bass playing goes, I've toured with Ginger's son Kofi quite a lot of the last few years. I was doing Cream's music, and I think
Hmm.
what I discovered was that I do have a little bit of like genetic similarity or whatever to my
Right.
dad, but I don't
Right.
sound exactly like him. But I've got my
Sure.
own way of doing those things, and I think it's more the great thing about Cream's music and my dad's approach to music, to the popular kinds of music that he did in general, was that it was finding your own way in it and the openness and exploratory nature of it. So with Cream themselves, they never, of course, there's form and structure, and there are songs and there are riffs and there are things you go
Hmm.
back to, and verses and choruses and middle eights and all of that stuff. But within that, it was constantly being reborn, fresh and new, different approaches, different, accenting different things or different phrasing or trying something or exploring something in the moment. And as we know with that band, um,
Hmm.
as they started playing live, especially in America, the audiences were kind of appealing to them, saying, "Hey, just play," and
Right.
they would start stretching out because it was
Right.
that the time where people, maybe they the acid was really good or the dope was really good or whatever I don't know, whatever it was that triggered
Right.
people to experience the world a little bit differently.
Sure.
And for a moment there, things opened up, and it was like, no, we don't really want to hear the 3-minute song. We want to hear you just play your instruments and see where that goes, man. And
Right.
actually,
Right.
from that kind of slightly naive perspective, something truly profound was born. And a
Hmm.
deeper, more open experience of the potentialities within music. And I think that that's the biggest thing that I learned from my dad, apart from everything else that I learned from my dad. But I don't think,
Yeah.
but I don't think it was anything specific that he said, okay, if you play that note, you must always go to that note.
Okay.
Nothing
Yeah.
like that.
As you were saying that, I mean, I think you could even say that they were kind of the originators of the term jam band. I mean,
I
when you
think
think
so,
about it,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
you had the Dead, obviously, were doing some
right.
stuff. And they actually met. I have to talk to my mum about that again, but they all went to San Francisco. The
Mhm.
the band, and my mum was with them, and that they actually met the Grateful Dead at that point. So there was that resonance, I think, and obviously the Dead did that that was their thing. Like, let's do a 27-hour gig where we don't know where it's going to head, and that's an amazing proposition. But I think it was a very different kind of music they were making, that the musicianship was very different. Perhaps I don't want to get myself into trouble because I haven't listened to every Grateful Dead concert that was ever recorded, of which there are 624,000 probably. But
yeah, no kidding.
But it's a different kind of music, a different cultural background, etc. But with Cream, it was that blues-based thing, but also, my dad was a classically trained musician and had studied the jazz tradition, and then had discovered the blues. And Ginger was a jazz drummer who then discovered the blues, and Eric was a student of the blues. So they really understood those traditions, and they brought all of those disparate elements to the table. And I think that that's what made Cream this unique combination, whether they were, how conscious they were of it at the time. There's the Scottish folk music element that's in a lot of my dad's writing as well. So there's all these different elements, whereas a lot of bands were just like, oh man, let's play these chords, and some of that's brilliant, incredible. I mean, it's not a criticism, it's just there were these influences that maybe they weren't obvious on the surface type influences, but the idea of musical development in the classical sense, that you can take a motif and you can stretch it and elongate it or change it or reharmonize it or turn things upside down, and that becomes the text, that becomes the language of the music. And but also in the blues, there's a lot of that in the blues, and so I think it's really interesting how it's all of the same, all great music is built in the same way. It has that same, even though the surface, what we're presented with might have a completely different feel to it. Essentially, something that's good is good. I mean, there's probably a quote in there somewhere. There's two kinds of music: good country and western. No, there's two kinds of music: good music and bad music. And I think that's what when it comes down to it.
Sure.
The style of something is less important than the understanding of the potential in something, and it's all about statement, deviation from the statement, or development, then coming back. So it's making people give something to people that they can understand, then giving them something that to move away from that, and then coming back. And those are the kind of basic building blocks of creativity. So you're taking people on a journey, and all that journey could also be, we're not going on a journey today, we're just going to go round in circles.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no kidding. So the last thing on this, your record comes out in a week. Obviously you're promoting it by doing some interviews and stuff like that, but ultimately, I mean, are you going to take this in the live setting, into the live setting at all? What's the plan there?
I'm not sure what the label are thinking about that. I mean, we don't have, some of the key people on the record are no longer here with us, so that's challenging. But we could certainly put a great band together and do some shows. I've got a record. I'm in the middle of making my own record that's going to be touring next year. Probably starting September. I'm going to be releasing some singles and stuff like that. And I always play some Cream stuff. And if we don't have a band on the road for this project, I'm totally up for Quarto Valley having, the Heavenly Cream on the merch stand if they want. That's not a problem. Like, it's these things sometimes they can be a slow burner. Something like that might just take some time to filter through. But there are lots of Cream fans out there, that people that love this music, that I think will really enjoy the record. So we'll see what happens.
And I'm even thinking, once you promote the solo record that you're doing, you could easily do like a half and half, do like a Cream set.
That's it. Well, that's the exact title I was thinking, half and half. So,
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I bet.
Or curdled or spoilt milk. Or,
all right.
whatever.
So I think we got the record, we got the doc. I'll track down the documentary because I love documentaries. So, and we'll keep an eye out for the solo record. Maybe we can chat when it comes time to
I'd
do
love that,
some
Ruben. Yeah.
promotion for the solo record. That'd be awesome. Actually, it was a pleasure. I mean, I hope to
thank
do
you,
it
Ruben.
again. And huge
Absolutely.
Cream fan, so huge fan of your dad's music, and I've been checking out some of your stuff too. So hope to talk to you down the way. All right.
Thanks, Ruben. Thanks for your time.
Hey, thanks so much. Take care, huh?
See ya.